right. Hey, Vikings fans, welcome into another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
And I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer. We like talking about the Vikings.
Yeah, and this episode is brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures. You can do that by sending an email to the email listed in the description below at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. That is bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. They can get you the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures. Step right up to your next big adventure.
Yeah, pretty cool that they've stepped up to sponsor this episode.
Yeah,
so
thanks
to
Big
them.
Top.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
We've got some good beer here, too.
We do. What are we drinking tonight, Ed?
We've got the SingleSpeed Prowl, and this is a beer that's featured in the Panther collective.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see it here. Maybe we can zoom in or something like that, or maybe not. Maybe you just need to check out our TikTok.
Yeah.
Where we did our first taste of this beer.
But Austin and I both went to the University of Northern Iowa, and
Go Cats.
That's in Cedar Falls, Iowa. And that's where SingleSpeed Brewery started. They've now expanded, and they're now mostly based out of Waterloo, Iowa. But pretty cool that they've started this Panther collective. And as far as we know, some of the proceeds from the sales of this beer go back to student athletes.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how it works, but they say that it supports or it helps support student athletes at the University of Northern Iowa. So that's pretty cool. And we're glad to help support fellow students at the University of Northern Iowa. If I could speak, my goodness. What do you think of the actual beer? So it is pretty cool, but like it's all moot point if it's a garbage beer.
It's a golden ale, right? That's what we read on the can. And I mean, I think you said it earlier, it's designed to be like a tailgating beer.
Yeah.
Like it's a game day beer. So it's 4.2% and it's good. I mean, I would have this on game day and I'd have a few probably.
Yeah, in a really good way. It reminds me of your average Coors Light, Busch Light, stuff like that.
It's like a step up. It's like the craft brewery step up.
Yeah, like if SingleSpeed were to say, which it seems like they did, let's make a tailgate beer, something you can just crush and responsibly still enjoy the game and get home safe. But yeah, 4.2%ers, you can tailgate pretty hard with these things, and maybe we'll have to do that.
Yeah, and the added benefit here is it's purple and gold.
Oh, yeah. The can looks awesome. Check out the TikTok. Check out the beer itself. The can, it reminds me of the feeling I got when right before the football players came out of that garage door. Like,
some good memories, for sure.
And the can just reminds me of that feeling.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, Skol,
Skol,
my friend. One other thing I wanted to point out before we really get into the meat and potatoes of our episode is I'm wearing your gift that you got me last week. So thanks again for that.
Yeah, it looks really
awesome.
good. Yeah. Looks really good on you there.
It's my first ever adult jersey, Vikings jersey, and it's Adam Thielen, of course. So,
and like I said when you opened it, it's a shade big, but I think jerseys are supposed to be a little big. I think it looks good. Yeah. And we're supporting a lifelong Viking. I don't care how many other teams Adam Thielen plays for. He's a Viking. He will have his name in the Ring of Honor just off the story alone.
He's going to come back and sign one of those one-day contracts.
Yeah. Maybe.
Retire.
Maybe he's going to like force his way out of this terrible Panthers team. And he'll say something like, I don't care, I just want to come back home. And he'll sign a deal that is very cap friendly and, not disrespectful to him. But, he's made a lot of money in his career. Maybe he just would want to come back.
And, hey, Anthony Barr did that. I mean, he was sitting on his couch a few weeks ago, and the Vikings picked him up and brought him back.
And although no disrespect to Anthony Barr, I feel like Adam Thielen, even if he were to talk his way out of the Panthers team, because I think he signed like a 3-year deal, which Thielen's character tells us he's not going to pout and cry and force his way off that team.
Right.
But if he were, he wouldn't have to take any deal the Vikings would potentially give him. There's teams that would pay him requisite money.
Oh, for sure.
Because he's still good. I mean, yeah, he's getting up there in football age, but he's still producing.
Yep.
He's one of the best Panthers right now.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we can dream. As Vikings fans, we can dream.
hopefully. And at very least, like I said, maybe he comes back on one of those one-day contracts and retires as a Viking.
Yep. When it's all said and done, I think he will retire a Viking, which is kind of cool.
Well, it's been a quiet week as a Vikings fan. It's been the bye week, but the biggest news, I don't know if we want to start with this, but the biggest news.
Do we have to? Are we going to fight? Is that what we're doing now?
We can.
Is that what you want to do?
We might have to. I mean, we were texting earlier about this, and you seemed a little on edge.
All right. So what Evan's talking about is Coach O'Connell in his press conference today announced that Josh Dobbs will be your Minnesota Vikings starting quarterback against the Raiders this week. And we have differing opinions on that. And that's okay. We get to have differing opinions. It's part of why sports are fun. We can debate till the cows come home. But obviously I'm right and you're wrong. And let's just talk about why I'm right and you're wrong.
All right, you start.
All right. I think we have seen the best of what Josh Dobbs can give us. And then I think we've seen the real Josh Dobbs. I said it, I think, last week. Dobbs was amazing against Atlanta once he got started. After the couple of turnovers and after the safety, then it was really fun for the second half of that game. It was awesome. He was the Pastronaut. He was the cover photo of the NFL. It was amazing. And then the next week against the Saints, right?
Yep.
He came out in that first half. My goodness. He had 220 passing yards. He was looking amazing. It was awesome. It was so much fun. And then he literally had less than 40 passing yards in the second half. The second half of the Saints game, all the way up until now, I think is, unfortunately, the true Josh Dobbs. We've seen a couple of flash plays since then, but really since that second half started of the Saints game. So that's a half and then a full game against the Broncos and then a full game against the Bears. It hasn't been great. It hasn't looked good. He's looked scared at times. He's just tossed the ball away at times. And I think we can expect to see more of that.
So I would play devil's advocate here
By all means.
A little bit. I don't think I mentioned this on air. I think I texted you some stats, and I think I texted you the wrong stats.
Ooh.
But I went and looked. This is Josh Dobbs in 4 games with the Vikings. As a passer, he's completed 85 of his 128 passes for a 66.4 completion percentage.
Which isn't bad.
Not bad. It's average.
Yeah, that's nothing to complain about.
832 yards in 4 games, so an average of 200 games. 200 yards a game.
3.5 games, give or take, because of that Atlanta game. But yeah.
5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions as a passer. So even touchdown to turnover ratio there. Touchdown to interception ratio, I should say. As a runner, 25 rushing attempts for 142 yards, 3 touchdowns added to his touchdown total. So 8 touchdowns total, and he has 6 fumbles. So he is responsible for 8 touchdowns and 11 turnovers. So if we compare that to Kirk Cousins in his first 4 games of the season, Kirk Cousins lost 3 fumbles and threw 4 interceptions for a total of 7 turnovers and 11 touchdowns. So slightly better, but still a lot of turnovers from Kirk Cousins.
In the beginning, which we complained about as a Vikings team overall, that's why they were losing.
And they went 1-4.
And then they turned it around.
And they did. And I'm not discrediting anything that Kirk Cousins did after that 1-4 start. We complained a lot about it. And then he turned it around, and he was playing at arguably an MVP level before he got hurt. And I've even seen, I think I saw a tweet this week that compared his projected stats if he were to finish the season healthy to Dak Prescott's projected season ending, and Dak's kind of in the mix for the MVP right now. And had Kirk stayed healthy and continued to play at the level that he was, we might be talking about Kirk Cousins as the front runner for the MVP conversation right now.
Yeah, and we were right before he went down in injury. It was kind of crazy. Like, yeah, sure, diehard Vikings fans would be like, "Yo, Kirk Cousins MVP," but like, he was building his case.
He sure was.
But to bring it back to the relevant topic, you're comparing Dobbs and his first few games with the Vikings this year, and Cousins and his first few with the Vikings this year. And my rebuttal to that is that the first few were horrible. What were we, 1-4 to start off?
Yep.
And complaining about the turnovers and complaining about coaching decisions. We weren't complaining about Cousins because, honestly, if I remember right, Cousins was playing lights out, and then the first 2 wins were the first 2 games that he didn't look great in. That's Cousins. He didn't look awesome. And it was kind of like, what the heck? Cousins has an off day, and then that's why the Vikings win? Like, what's going on here? I don't know. I need to see what Dobbs looks like after the bye week, and if they've been able to switch things up and change it around. Because I've said it before, too. I'm a fan of this team. I want to like this team. I'm not going to crap on the team just because they do something that I necessarily wouldn't do. So I want them to do good. I want Josh Dobbs to be amazing. Do I think he's going to be Jalen Hurts right off the bat? No, that would be unreasonable. Could I see a scenario where a bye week and more study and more preparation really does Dobbs well and he starts to utilize everything? Yeah, that could absolutely happen. Usually, especially in the NFL, when guys show you who they are, I mean, that's not changing. Like, yeah, I can't think of any other example.
And there's a reason he's been on who knows how many teams even in the last calendar year. I mean, he's been around and he's been in a lot of different systems, and he hasn't really gotten a lot of opportunity other than with a really bad Arizona Cardinals team. Mm-hmm. And he started, 8 games for them, and they won one mm-hmm. of those games. So, I don't know. He just hasn't had the opportunity. He hasn't had an offense like the Vikings have. He hasn't had weapons to throw to. He's got JJ coming back.
Yeah, that's
week.
Huge.
That's big. But he's had Addison, he's had Hawkinson, he's had Powell who's come on. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I'm interested to see.
And to that point, I did say a few weeks ago, yeah, Dobbs he's been around. He's had a bunch of, different stops in the NFL, but he's never really had an opportunity. I kind of said what you're saying right now in defense of him. And yeah, a few weeks ago, me was like, yeah, he's doing something with this opportunity. But the more he goes out, and I'm not an expert. I don't ever want to make it seem like I know better than the coaches. Like, obviously, they know better than me. They have forgotten more in the last 5 minutes than I'll ever know.
Just a couple of dudes, right?
Just a couple of dudes. I don't feel good about it. When he was announced as the starter, I tweeted out and said, oof.
You did. What are the other options, though? I mean, you have Nick Mullins and you have Jaren Hall. Mm-hmm. Those are your other 2 options. And at this point in the season, you have playoff hopes still at 6-6.
The Vikings still control their own destiny. Yeah. I think for the division. I might be wrong on that. I know they do for the playoffs. I think for the division.
I think there's an outside chance that they could still win the division. I think it would take winning out and Detroit losing out or something very close to that.
Mm-hmm. And we've actually got some information for a little bit later on that point. But you're right. They're still in the playoff fight. And I think maybe the quarterback decision would be a little bit different if you were not. Because then you're really thinking, okay, now we're scouting for next year. If their hopes were dead, now you're scouting for next year. Do we see what Jaren Hall has, or do we really focus on what quarterbacks are coming out of the draft? Or, I mean, right now, my choice, and again, I'm not the expert, I'm not the one being paid to make the decisions, I would have chosen Nick Mullins. He has some previous NFL starting experience. Yes, he's bounced around a little bit. He's a former Raider, the team that the Vikings are going to face this coming week. He he's not perfect. He had a slightly exciting run, if you remember, a few years ago as the step-in starter for the Niners. But even that, it's not like they went on to win the Super Bowl. It wasn't a Brock Purdy run, you know. But my whole thing with him is his play style was the most like Kirk Cousins, which that play style is what this offense was built around. He's been in the system for now since two full off seasons and now almost 2 full seasons. So in theory, he knows the system inside and out. My gut told me that made the most sense was to go with Nick Mullins. You said a few minutes ago, KOC kind of said that the best quarterback will probably be the one who plays to Justin Jefferson's skill set the best. And maybe the coaches think that right there is Josh Dobbs.
I didn't say that. You said that.
Well, you said JJ's coming back.
Sure.
Which is huge. So maybe having the NFL's best player come back will make your quarterback a little bit better. I don't know.
Well, in the case that I would make against Nick Mullins starting is Nick Mullins is most like Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
And in the last 4 games, they've had to adapt this offense to be more of a running quarterback style of offense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think throwing another curveball at your offensive line, they've already dealt with a curveball. They went from having Kirk Cousins, pocket passer, pretty much knowing that he's going to drop back and release every time. And I think we talked about it last week. You know, there's a big difference with Dobbs dropping back and then taking off, and then your guys at the front don't know where you are,
mm-hmm.
and that creates all sorts of confusion. And there's got to be some trust built up. There's got to be some communication involved. I think with Dobbs having a few weeks of that now, you know, maybe against the Broncos and the Bears, some of those things slipped a little bit. Maybe it was simply just the unfamiliarity with Dobbs in the Falcons and the Saints game, where it was just like, no, you guys do what you've always been doing, and I'll work around you. And maybe those last 2 games, some of that just kind of eroded. And I don't know, with the bye week, I think they've had more time to figure it out. And switching to Nick Mullins might involve some like whiplash with especially your offensive line and maybe your skill players too on offense. Like, okay, well,
mm-hmm.
we did this with Kirk, and then we made these changes with Dobbs, and now we have to make these changes back to Mullins. That might be a lot, especially for a team that's really trying to focus. We have to talk about this soon. They have to win these next 2 games. These next 2 games are essentially playoff games if we don't win them.
Yeah, the playoffs have kind of started for the Vikings.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So you're making valid points, and as just a dude and not a coach and not someone who's had, experience in that type of an atmosphere, everything you said makes sense to me, and I can see it and get behind it. It's just, it's frustrating because it's not the decision I would have made, and who knows, maybe 3 weeks from now, you and me are sitting here saying, thank the Lord they didn't do what Austin would have done, because who knows how bad that could have been, and here we are 3-0 in the last 3 weeks. You never know. Like, anything can happen.
Let's hope that's the case.
I hope they win every game. I'm not somebody that's going to hate my team, my favorite team, just because they don't do something that I would have done. It's just, it feels frustrating. And I'll say this, and if this whole Josh Dobbs experiment tanks, if he comes out and they play him and they keep going with him, and if he looks terrible and has more turnovers and looks even more scared, that just puts a big stinker on all of our opinions of the coaching staff, of the GM, because I don't know I assume the GM, Kwesi is fully letting KOC make those decisions. That's just an assumption of mine. But man, even if Dobbs has a terrible first half and they bench him and they go with Nick Mullins, or whoever they go with if they bench him, I'm thinking, man, KOC is really questioning everything, and I don't know how I feel about him as a coach. That being said, if Dobbs goes out and he lights it up for the next 2 weeks and looks amazing, obviously we're all patting KOC on the back and saying, greatest coach ever, coach of the year, who cares what happens, playoffs, whatever. He made the best decision ever. This is such a pivotal point in the Vikings season.
It can't be understated how important simply choosing a quarterback is for these next few games.
Yeah.
And I mean, we could be sitting here next week talking about a new quarterback. I mean, Dobbs could go out and lay an egg, come out in the first half and get replaced by Mullins or Hall, and then we're sitting back here next week on the podcast talking about, oh my gosh, Dobbs, he's terrible. Mullins came in. I don't even know if the Vikings are going to make the playoffs anymore. I mean, it's a huge decision. Or he could go out, like you said, and light it up, play great, and, you know, lead the cavalry into the promised land, which would be awesome.
And I've said before, too, every player on every team has a leash. It just it's different on how long that leash is. Tom Brady's leash right now on every team has got to be 10 miles long. He could call any team and be like, hey, what you doing? Maybe the Chiefs would say no, but like most teams, especially with all the QB injuries, would be like, all right, come on, Tom. But Josh Dobbs, his leash has got to be like razor thin.
Short.
And
short.
To that point that I was just saying earlier, if they do pull him, if his leash does get too short and the coaches pull him, that just makes the coaches look bad for making the decision they did. And if he looks terrible and they don't pull him, coaches still look bad because now we're just saying they're just, patting their ego because they must have made the right decision. They just got to double, triple, quadruple down on that. It's all hypothetical, and I'm not being fair to any of the coaches or anything right now at all. It's frustrating because I didn't get my way.
And it sucks that we're in this position to begin with. Going back all the way to kind of where this conversation started, we had an MVP level of play coming out of Kirk Cousins, and he was looking awesome, and he was silencing the doubters, and he was playing well even when the rest of the team wasn't, and it was looking like, man, if we can get this stuff figured out, man, we could do something here. And then we went on that 5-game win streak, and it was like, oh my gosh. And so yeah, it's been this motif all season long of quarterback. And I don't think that's going away. And I think we're going to be talking about it all the way up until the Vikings season ends, whenever that is.
Yeah. Dustin Baker tweeted something out a handful of weeks ago, like right when they first, I think it was after the Atlanta game. He said something to the tune of, man, I can't wait for all these Dobbs, Mullins, Hall arguments on Twitter like we had back in the Bollinger, Kelly Holcomb, Tarvaris Jackson, all that era. Like, and darn it, he's exactly right.
Here we are.
But I think we can both agree we're fans. We're rooting for the team. Even if you and I would have made different decisions at quarterback, we got to roll with it. And either we're both happy next week or we're both mad next week. And if it's because of Dobbs, I'm just going to be a little bit more smug about that. And you're just going to be a little bit more sad that the guy that... And it's not like you've been saying Dobbs the whole time.
I'm not a huge cheerleader of his, but I do think he's the right choice, just given the fact that he has 2 wins. Yes, he has 2 losses, but he also has 2 wins under his belt. And I think we can basically call him the starter of the Falcons game because he played 90% of that game.
Well, the Falcons game is all the more impressive because he had been on the team
thrust
for what?
Into action with little to no introduction to any of his teammates.
I don't think he got to Minnesota until Wednesday before that game. So a couple of practices, didn't know guys' names. Like, that was the whole talker. It was amazing.
Just a little, shameless plug. You should go to our TikTok and find the How I Met Your Mother / How I Met Your Teammates video.
Yeah.
I'm a little bummed that one didn't get as many views. That was funny.
It's like our second least viewed video.
It's really funny.
I think that video is a higher quality video than our video that has 155,000+ views, which...
That's all you, man.
Yeah, that was luck. If you like watching low quality video of a
You
kind
standing
of
in front of
bad-
your TV.
Well, no, not even that. I did take it recording my TV, but of a pretty gruesome injury.
Yeah.
If you like watching I'm the sick freak that likes watching NFL sports injuries and just cringing at them and just getting that enjoyment out of it. Obviously, I don't want people to get hurt, but I like the video. So if you like that, go check out our TikTok, and it's one of our pinned videos. It's the Chiefs player that like twisted his ankle all the way around or whatever happened, which apparently he didn't even break it. I don't understand how that happens.
You followed up and he's hurt, but he's not broken, I guess.
Yeah,
So.
I don't know. There's got to be some injury. I wouldn't imagine he's playing this week. Anyways, if you like How I Met Your Mother, or at least know what it is, go check out that TikTok. Maybe we should pin it just to see if it gets a few more views.
Just check out our TikTok in general. We've been trying to have some fun with that. We've been doing some beer reviews. We've both been doing a beer advent calendar, which has been kind of fun. Austin's doing a legitimate beer advent calendar.
Yours is legitimate too, Ev. It's just that my wife loved me enough to make me a thoughtful, heartfelt beer advent calendar.
And I think my wife loves me enough that she'll get me one next year.
Maybe.
And I've had to make my own.
We should work on that.
Maybe I'll just make my own from here on out.
Fun fact, if you've seen any of my beer advent calendar videos, you've seen they all open with me opening up that cool sectioned off box.
That is cool.
That was made by a friend of the show, Forrest, his mother. So thank you, Forrest's mom. I love that thing. It's awesome.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Do you keep it in the fridge?
That thing lives in my garage.
Oh, so
but it's not heated. Although I will say, usually I find out the beer right after work, and then I do the beer video right after dinner. So when I open it up, I figure it out, record that, and then I put the beer in the fridge. And then a couple hours later, I record the beer video. So
there's a little bit of production magic.
Oh yeah,
it's not
high quality Hollywood.
It's not straight
stuff.
from box to glass.
Yeah,
I see how you are.
Yeah, but check it out, TikTok. We're having a lot of fun with that.
We are.
Whether it's a video we spend 2 hours on or a video we spend 8 seconds on, I don't know. I think we have some at least somewhat entertaining videos on there.
I like them.
Yeah. So if you like the podcast, if you like our vibe, you'll like the videos.
Had some fun with Kirk Cousins. It looks like he's been on a little bit of a vacation here with his family, and
good for him.
So yeah,
it's by a week.
He deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
But we found some videos of him rolling on a little scooter at the grocery store.
You caught him riding dirty there.
Yeah, he was riding dirty for sure. We caught him scoring a touchdown in the ocean.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
those were fun videos.
Paul Allen, how'd you get PA to call that?
He's a friend of mine.
Yeah.
I called him up.
PA, please come on our show. We love you.
We would love that.
You've been on 10K takes, which we are nowhere near 10K takes. Maybe someday. We love you guys at 10K takes. PA, we love you. You are our happy place, I think. Come on our show. That'd be great.
Yeah. Shameless plug.
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Check out our TikTok and all of our socials, which feels like we're closing an episode. We're not even done yet.
Oh, no. We've still got to talk about the playoffs here, because we spent a lot of time talking about the quarterback and how important the quarterback decision is when it comes to this final 5-game push towards the playoffs. But where are we sitting right now in terms of our playoff probability?
Playoff probability. Oh, I didn't even write that one down for at the moment. What are we at? Like 48% or something like that?
Yeah, it's right here.
Oh, you got it?
It says right now 42%. This is Dustin Baker.
Yeah.
Who tweeted this out. Currently, this was December 4th, so a few days ago, but nothing's changed. 42% chance to make the playoffs.
Okay. Well, that kind of blows, because just a couple of weeks ago it was like 75% or something like that. But when you go 0-2 against the Broncos and the Bears, like, good grief.
Well, losing a divisional game hurts, of course.
It might convince the Bears to keep their quarterback for a little bit longer, so that's a plus, right? Like,
yeah, their quarterback who's more of a running back.
Yeah, they're RB1. All right, but Yeah, so Dustin Baker, he did kind of say last weekend, the bye weeks, NFL matchups, pretty much all went against what the Vikings would have hoped for.
It was a bad week if you were a Vikings fan. Even though the Vikings didn't play, they didn't turn the ball over, which is a good thing because they weren't playing.
Yeah.
But everything else that could go wrong pretty much did.
Yep. He said, he pointed out the Rams won, the Falcons won, the Buccaneers won, the Lions won, and then ultimately, this is so annoying. The Packers beat the Chiefs.
It is annoying.
And now people are all, Jordan Love, he's the next Favre Rodgers Love. And if that freaking happens, I'm going to just be a golf fan. This is so dumb.
We'll be Timberwolves fans. They're playing well this year.
Now you jinxed it, Ev. Now you jinxed it.
There's no such thing.
Anthony Edwards got injured. And that's a pre-happening of your current jinx. You're at fault. I hope you feel good.
I didn't even know Anthony Edwards got injured.
It was a few weeks ago, and I think he's already starting to play. But I will go on record. I will be a diehard Timberwolves fan if they're good and in the playoffs. Other than that, I just can't. Any season longer than 18 games, I just can't put my emotions into. If the Wild played 20 games, I'd be the biggest hockey fan in the world. Every time I sit down and watch a hockey game, I'm on edge the entire time. Don't even try to talk to me because I'm so focused. And then, it's 80 some games, right? I couldn't put my heart through that. So yeah, I mean, if the Vikings win their next 5 games, the final 5 games of the season, they would be the division winners. Because in that scenario, the Lions have lost 2 games. I guess they wouldn't automatically be division winners. They would need the Lions to lose at least one other game.
It would make the divisional race very, very interesting.
Yeah, so
sure.
We know if the Vikings keep winning and the Lions lose 1 before their first game against the Vikings, we know, okay, full destiny, all on the Vikings. I feel like if the Lions, because what are they? What did we just say? They're
9-3.
9-3.
Yep.
Vikings are
6-6.
So if the Lions win out, they will only have 3 losses. If the Vikings win out, they will have 6 losses. That's something that can't change. Although no, I'm talking in circles again. If the Vikings win out, the Lions have at least 5 losses because the Vikings-Lions play twice.
All of that to say, the next 2 games for the Vikings are crucial. And our friend Dustin Baker has laid it out very nicely for us. I
think he uses ESPN probabilities or whatever for these stats you're about to say, but yeah.
It's just nice to have them all here. He's done the hard work for us so that we don't have to dig through these. So I'm going to start on the positive end. If the Vikings beat the Raiders and beat the Bengals, which are both road games, by the way, the Vikings' playoff probability is at 72%.
Which is crazy. Good. Yeah, that's almost a given.
Yep. If they only beat the Raiders, that's not including, we're not looking ahead to Cincinnati yet.
That's just in these next 2 games.
If they just beat the Raiders, 55%.
Okay.
If they beat the Raiders but lose to the Bengals, it's a 40% chance. Or if they lose to the Raiders and beat the Bengals. So basically, if they go 1-1 in the next 2 games, their playoff chances dip to 40% because neither of those games are conference games or divisional
Which
games.
Is a bit of a silver lining. Yes, this is a crucial point. You have to win these next 2 games, but 40% is still workable.
Yeah, all hope is not lost if these next 2 games are losses. But it becomes pretty bad if
if these next 2 games are both losses. What does it say?
10%.
10%.
10%. That's tough.
You cannot lose both of those games.
No. And that's
you can
why
lose one or the other. You just can't lose both.
And that's why the conversation we had earlier about the quarterback is so important, because it's going to affect what happens in these next two games, whether we like it or not. It's going to affect that. So,
well, even losing one of those games is a 30% swing in your whatever ESPN uses to track playoff probability. Like, that's huge. Like, that's crazy.
yeah,
You hit the nail on the head. This quarterback decision right now is the most important thing that has happened all season. I mean, everything that has happened has led up to this decision, and you can't miss on this decision. I'd be happy to be wrong and to eat my words and say, you know what, I was wrong about my initial thoughts my thoughts right now on Dobbs. But man, that's part of the reason I'm so upset about the decision, is because I know how important it is, and I know what I would do.
Well, I think another thing that we didn't really talk about earlier is how thin of a margin those last two games truly were. Yeah. A total of 3 points.
It's not even like those two games were against the Chiefs and the Eagles. Like, you lost to, and yeah, the Broncos are kind of surging right now. Ever since their game where they allowed 70 points to the Dolphins, they've looked better and better.
That'll sure wake you up.
So that feels a little less crappy. But to lose against the Bears, who are not good this year, and who, I mean, before that Vikings loss, you're talking like they may fire their coach. Before that Vikings loss, you're talking the GM and the coach haven't beat an NFC North opponent. Like, and that sucks, because forever now, whether it's the next few games that they're the coach and GM, or if they last and they're the coach and GM for years to come, the Vikings are the first NFC North team to lose against them. That sucks. But, like, to lose against that team when they didn't even score a touchdown, that's disappointing. That sucks. And that right there is why I'm upset about the quarterback decision.
And it doesn't help his case that he threw 4 interceptions in that game.
It's hard to throw 4. You talk about bad quarterbacks. If you're bad enough to throw 4 interceptions, that's also a coaching decision, because that means they left you in after the 3rd interception and the 2nd interception. Like, it's not like, you know, Tom Brady, if he throws a 3rd interception, you're not taking him out. You're not worried about that. It's Tom Brady. He's fine. He'll figure it out. It's going to be
okay. Unless
okay.
you're up by 50 and you can afford to.
Yeah. If your new quarterback who's been with you less than a month or whatever throws 4 interceptions, like, we've already kind of come back on this, and I've kind of simmered down, but I'm just getting worked up again now. That's coaching. That is coaching. That's as much coaching as a poor decision to not go for it on 4th and 1 at some points in the game. To leave a guy in after 4 interceptions is ridiculous. It's insane. You could throw Ryan Wright in at quarterback, and it would still take some of the pressure off, because he hasn't thrown 4 interceptions. Like, okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Skol hoppers.
Maybe he would be better at quarterback than he's been punting this year. Who knows?
Yeah, and it's been masked because you're not focused on him, and you can kind of forget about a bad punt 2 seconds later, because then you're focused on the defense. But
well, let's look ahead to this Raiders game. We've talked about the quarterback decision. We've talked about what's at stake here, especially these next few games, and how big of a swing it will be if they win both as opposed to losing both on the road against the Raiders and the Bengals. But the Raiders are in front of us right now. And in a couple of days, the boys will be getting on a plane and heading out to Vegas. What are they needing to do to walk away with a victory?
So I'll be honest, I'm not as knowledgeable on the Raiders, especially the current 2-day Raiders.
Yeah, I haven't paid a lot of attention to him. I know there's been some turmoil there.
I know they have benched Garoppolo, which they're also on a quarterback change. It's been a few weeks, but still It's not
And
the guy they initially started with.
Fired their coach.
Fired their coach. Did they fire their GM too? I don't know. Either way,
Couldn't tell you.
I think it was just their coach. But there's a lot of unknowns with that team, even if it's been a few weeks since a lot of those changes, which can be scary when just like Josh Dobbs against Atlanta, like you just don't know, so it's hard to play against him. It's away in Vegas. I don't know. I'm more focused on the Vikings, so I think the defense, which I don't know how much more you can do than only allow 12 points in a game like they did against the Bears, but the defense just has to keep doing what they're doing. It's working. Maybe it looks a little ugly at times, but ultimately they've been doing well. 20 points or 21 points they allowed against the Broncos, which you don't love, but that's not 50, and 12 points against the Bears. And even after that, which I'm saying those point totals are pretty decent again for the defense. Even after that, you're 0-2. So the Vikings defense just has to keep up with what they're doing.
And they're healthy, I think, which is a good thing too.
For the most part. I mean, you're still without Jordan Hicks, which who knows? He may not be playing again this year. I don't know anything about that. But yeah, you're right. The
Caleb
big names,
Evans, I think, might be coming back this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I meant to write down the injury report from today, but
it was pretty clean,
yeah.
Which you would expect after the bye week. You'd expect most of the guys to be coming back if they were hurt.
Yeah, if I remember right, everybody who was listed on the injury report was either limited or full participants. There were no did not participate. So everyone not on injured reserve was at least participating in some capacity in practice, which is good. Coming off the bye week, you like to see that. So yeah, the defense is at least what they were for the Bears game, which they only allowed 12 points. Usually your defense only allows 12 points and no touchdowns, you win that game. But we're moving on.
What about the offense?
The offense. Quarterback. We've been talking about it all day. Quarterback. But most importantly, just got to stop turning the darn ball over. I mean, you can't have 4 interceptions. You just can't. You can't win a game with 4 interceptions. I'm sure somebody could look it up and tell us how many times a team has won after throwing 4 interceptions. You can't do that. And if Dobbs throws 3 interceptions, he better not see that field again. I don't care who it is. If you throw 3 interceptions, you should be done. So no turnovers. And you need to actually score. And if you don't turn the ball over, you got a better chance of scoring. So that's the offense. Also, this is a pivotal game for KOC. I've been saying it for the last handful of weeks. His game management, the actual playing the chess that is football as a coach, he needs to step it up. He needs to figure out clock management, strategy. He needs to play better. He needs to be a better coach.
He's been exposed a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think he's been able to kind of hide behind his playmakers, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, even Dobbs for those couple of weeks. He's been able to kind of hide behind those big plays. But yeah, his game management and the ability to strategically call the game to win the game, not just avoid losing the game, has been on full display.
I think of the Titans coach Mike Vrabel and how there's been a few times he's instructed his team to get a penalty on purpose because it ended up working the clock better so that they, it actually helped their team better, or, savvy, just ingenious plays that at the time aren't technically against the rules. We've never seen a savvy move like that. About the savviest move we've seen from KOC is the couple of times he's done a fake punt, which I don't know even how much we can attribute that to Coach O'Connell. It just he's been good, and ultimately he's won more games than he's lost. But you're right, he's been exposed a little bit. He needs to step it up on that, which is super easy for me to say as just a dude in Iowa, but.
And I think we can cut him a little bit of slack. I don't know that he's the sole reason we've lost games. It's not like it's come down to, the last little bit and it's been only him and everything else has gone well. I mean, the Bears game, Dobbs threw 4 picks. like you said, you can't win a game when you throw 4 interceptions. So, yeah, KOC didn't call the greatest game and maybe didn't put the team in the best position down the stretch, but he's only a part of the problem. He is not the sole problem.
And no loss ever comes down to one play or one player or one person. But yeah, he's a really great motivator. He just needs to also be a way better game manager. And maybe Dobbs being a better quarterback now that he's been there a little bit longer will help. But I think having a competent MVP level quarterback like Kirk Cousins hid a lot of that, and that's why you won a lot more of those 1-score games than you lost.
Well, and you saw Kirk calling different plays at the line. I mean, based on what he sees, there's 2 or 3 plays that he's got when he steps up and he can kill the first one and go on to the second one based on what he sees. And, sometimes that has to, probably irk the coach a little bit. Like, no, I really wanted this play to go and you called something different and it didn't work out and whatever. But, I don't know. At the end of the day, a lot of things have to improve. I mean, when you're a 500 football team, when you're 6-6 and the playoffs are still right there, you gotta shore up some of those weaknesses if you want to make that push. If you don't, then you're going to be sitting at home in January and February, and that's just the reality of it. So
exactly,
big couple of games for the Vikings.
Huge, the biggest 2 of the season so far.
Yep, and I like what Harrison Phillips said. I caught it on one of those field access videos, and I think I may have tweeted it out on my personal account in response to something that we posted on our Skol Hop account. But Harrison Phillips said in a little pregame huddle with his teammates, he said, "This game's the most important one, and you know why? Because it's the next one."
Yep.
And I like that mentality.
Yep.
And I think he's been a great leader and a great addition to the team. He's the Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee for my team. So,
and well deserving too. It's not like, I think the big thing of that award is his advocacy for those with special needs.
Yeah.
And that has been something he's been doing for years and years and years. It's not like this random thing that came out just so he can kind of try to win that Walter Payton Man of the Year award. No, I mean, he'd be doing that without awards. He was doing that without awards, which is pretty awesome. I think he liked your tweet.
Yeah. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
We appreciate that. If you're out there listening, Harrison.
Yeah. Hey, let's do it again. Harrison Phillips, would you like to come on the podcast? We gladly take you.
We are totally open to guests on our show.
Yeah.
We love it.
That'd be a lot of fun.
It'd be awesome. Well, we're getting down to the bottom of this Prowl from SingleSpeed here. What do you think?
Way better than your Coors Light or Busch Light or Michelob Ultra. Sorry about your advent calendar.
You just spoiled like the next 3 that I was going to do. Come on.
It's fantastic. It's not, I mean, I think it revels in the fact that it's nothing world beating. It's nothing that you haven't tasted before, but it's just really good at what it is. It's good beer. It's for a good cause. It's good. I will gladly have more.
And it comes in a purple and gold can.
Yeah, that's a displayable can right there.
Might just have to stay there.
I mean, I'm not mad about it.
I'm not either.
And even if I were, it's your house. Like,
we'll keep it there.
Okay.
We'll keep it there.
All right.
It's a part of the set now.
I like it.
All right. Well, we're going to have a lot to talk about, I feel like, on the next episode because we had a lot to talk about tonight, and the Vikings are going to have played a game between now and then.
Yeah,
so.
And I hope I get to sit here and say I was wrong. I was just terribly wrong about the quarterback situation. I hope that's the case.
Well, despite my glass being almost empty, I still view it as half full, and you probably view yours as half empty.
Mostly empty, yeah. I'm the pessimist.
That just defines our relationship, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But good beer, good conversation. We will for sure be doing it again next week.
Absolutely. So if our listeners have any opinions on what we've said or maybe didn't say, how can they reach out to us?
Well, we're pretty much everywhere that you can find us on the internet. We do have a website, www.theskolhop.com. So you can find everything that we do there, links to every single outlet that we are on, every single platform.
Even down to every beer we've featured, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, so if you go to the podcast episode page, you can go into each episode and you can see which beer we featured on each episode. Mm-hmm. So if you're curious as to all of the different beers that we featured, that's where you can find that. In addition to the website, I mean, we're all over the place. YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. That's where you can listen to us, of course. You're probably already listening on one of those platforms or something similar. But if you're looking to connect with us in other ways, social media, we've talked a lot about TikTok on this episode. We've been having fun with that.
Oh, yeah.
You've also been interacting with a lot of people on Twitter. You're kind of our primary point person that way. So we're on Facebook. We just started a Reddit even.
Yeah, we got a Reddit thread, subreddit, however you say it. We're there.
We're out there. Yeah, I mean, if you want to find us,
yeah, just search the Skol Hop.
You'll find us. We're there.
Yep,
we're there, and we're having a lot of fun with this. It's been awesome, and I mean, even before we stuck a few microphones in front of us, it was
beer and Vikings,
hanging out, having a beer, and talking about the Vikings. So, yeah, we're glad that you're joining us. That's why we started this.
And also, if you want to kind of interact with us in real time, we are planning on live streaming during this upcoming Vikings Raiders game this Sunday. It's like a 3:20, 3:15, 3 o'clock-ish game.
Yeah. Late window, not night game, but late window game on Sunday. So.
It's in that game of the week time block. That's not the necessary prime time game, but yeah.
Yeah, we'll be on YouTube live streaming. So come out and join us. We'd love to interact with you in the chat. And if you get tired of listening to the commentators on the TV broadcast, just sync your TV up with our live stream, and you can listen to us talk about what's happening in the game.
Yeah, we got a few people.
As opposed to the talking heads.
Hopefully we see JK and Joey Bag of Donuts and the couple of regulars we've seen in there before too. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm looking forward to that for sure. Looking forward to some more good beer. And yeah.
All right, man. It's been a good episode.
It has been.
Till next time.
Skol.
Skol.
Hey Vikings fans, Evan here from the Skol Hop, and we just wanted to say thank you again so much for listening to the Skol Hop, and we also wanted to take one more opportunity to let you know that this episode of the Skol Hop has been brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Once again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can get the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures. Step right up to your next big adventure. And thanks again for listening to the Skol Hop. Skol.